Scoreline, brought to you by Predator Energy Drink.
It's Kenya 1, Kenya 2, Kenya 3.
But if they are only waiting me to raise and make money and clap for me after winning a goal, that is not enough.
For decades, Kenya has ruled the world athletic stage. But lately, the doping demons are threatening to tear everything apart.
Cartel attack doesn't work that way. Never, never.
Some of the people you are looking at as stakeholders are the ones perpetuating the vice.
Punishing the athlete alone doesn't help the process.
Kwani sisi athletes wako na hiyo litmus paper yenye wanaingiza kwani safe alafu results inatoka.
What is fueling doping in Kenya? Is this a crisis by commission or omission?
Personally niko aware watu wanatumia.
Mimi nilifeel nilisetiwa sana regret sana. Na regret kabisa. Na regret
The men may have been very muscular, but they cannot fertilize anybody's daughter.
That is why nakwambia AKR failures.
It is not the duty of Athletes Kenya to do the testing.
The doping demons.
As much as dreams are never achieved by magic, it feels good to win. Or does it? To get your way to the top and win the coveted prize. A number of Kenyan athletes have gone beyond winning to winning at all costs. And with that, a number of athletes have taken the nightmarish doping path to become champions. Cheats and doping demons that have tarnished Kenyan image on the global scene. Former Rotterdam Marathon champion Marius Kipserem adds to the growing list of 26 Kenyans slapped with a ban by the Athletics Integrity Unit in the year 2022. Kipserem was handed a 3-year doping ban for testing positive to EPO. Ibrahim Mukunga Washira also received a sanction for testing positive to a prohibited substance, narandosterone, together with his teammate Kenneth Kiprop Renju for presence of a prohibited substance, methasterone. The 2022 AIU Kenya Doping List of Shame also has the 2021 Boston Marathon champion Diana Kipyoke and Betty Wilson Lempus, who are suspended for using banned substances, triamcinolone acetonide, and have also been charged with obstructing the AIU's investigation by providing false documentation. Kipyoke and Lempus' suspension came 3 days after Mark Kangogo, who won the prestigious Sierra Zinal Trial Mountain Race in Switzerland in August of 2022, was also suspended for presence of a prohibited substance in his system, narondosterone, and also triamcinolone acetonide. Philemon Kacheran was banned for doping barely a few days after the 2019 Chicago and Boston Marathon champion Lawrence Cherono was slapped with a ban. Lilian Kasait, former Wild Under-18 3,000 meters champion and a promising star, was also banned for using hormone therapy drug letrozole, which she pleaded guilty. But things appeared even thicker as Matthew Kisorio emerged as a 2-time doper for failing to update his whereabouts. Besides Kacheran, who was banned from taking part at the Commonwealth Games due to a doping violation, Marathoners Stellas Barsosio and Purity Changwon, and also 1500 meters runner Kumari Taki were also sanctioned this year.
You cannot just fear, but to be scared. To be scared means actually you are at the end, because at the moment it is a bit scary. You can imagine now if Kenya is stopped, because the discussion that comes from the top is that there's a demand from the international body that Kenya should be kicked out.
We are on a very dangerous trajectory. I will not be surprised, continuing at this rate, if Kenya is told now, can you wait a bit? We are giving you time to clean up a little more.
To show how grave doping is in the country, for the first time, we give you another list of Kenyan athletes who have been sanctioned this year by the Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya. A list that contains 22 individuals already banned after the conclusion of their doping-related cases, and an additional list of 9 active cases before ADAC. Remember, questions have been asked and insinuated that there have been some forces hiding the list of drug cheats.
There is a friend of mine, alinipigia simu. Kaniambia unajua mimi niko chini ya nyasi bwana. Niliambia manager wasinitangaza. Ni true story. Unaona? Nikaambia kwani ulifanya nini? Akaniambia niliweka kitu kidogo. True story, facts. Na si ati ni kitambo.
Kuna mtu hata ameuliza 7 million. Kuna mwingine ameuliza 10 million. Tukukava jina yako. Nela. So what are you going to do? So there are so many athletes right now have been suspended. They have not been running. They just say, okay, I have injury. They are underground suspension. Already amelipa nini? Amelipa pesa.
So many athletes have been banned, but people don't know. People don't know. Just as somebody says I'm injured, he stays. I'm injured for two years, and then he comes back. And he was banned for.
Does it happen?
Yes, so many times. It happens. Because somebody says I'm injured, but he has been banned. And then he stays for 2 years, and then he's back. But nobody knows.
This is what others have termed as the hidden list of athletes who have been sanctioned by ADAC, currently serving period of ineligibility as of 30th October 2022. Shai Chepkosgei for violating off probation. And with that, she gets a 4-year ineligibility that will end in December 2024. Jedaida Wanjiru on the list for presence of prohibited substance, and also on her end, she gets a 4-year slap. Bernard Kiplagat Kibilo for presence of prohibited substance Narandasterone, and he is serving a 4-year doping ban. Henry Kosgei is also on the list for evading, refusing, or failing to submit to sample collection. He is serving a 4-year ban that will end on 20th November 2024. Willie Kipkemoi Rotich also got a 4-year ban for presence of a prohibited substance, prednisolone. Beatrice Jepkoech Ruto, who is now serving a 2-year ban because of presence of haptiminol. Joy Kemuma Lois, presence of prohibited substance APO, and with that she is serving a 4-year ban. Purity J. Talam also serving a 4-year ban because of violation of probation. Wilson Mutua Minor, presence of prednisolone in his system, and with that he got a 4-year ban. Boniface Mbuvi Mwema, presence of prohibited substance Narandasterone, and he is serving a 4-year ineligibility period. Joseph Mbada also makes the list with presence of prohibited substance EPO, and with that he is serving a 4-year ban. Patrick Kipyegon Tevrer, presence of Narandasterone, and with that also another athlete who is out serving a 4-year ban. Henry Cheruyot Kosgei, serving a lifetime ban because of presence of prohibited substance prednisolone, and also a violation of probation. Alphas Lekan Kishoyan, a non-athlete in the country, also serving a 4-year ineligibility ban because of presence of prohibited substance narandesterone. George Nganga Kimodo, also another athlete, out for 4 years because of presence of narandesterone. Another athlete that is serving a ban is Henry Sang, tampering or attempted tampering with part of the doping control, and with that he is also serving a 4-year ineligibility period. Joan Rotich Nancy, also another Kenyan athlete on the list of Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya for violation of probation, serving a 4-year ban that will end on 2024 February. Yvonne Isuza, refusal or a failure without compelling justification to submit to doping control. On his side, he is serving a 4-year period of ineligibility. Mother Wanjiku Njoroge also gets a 2-year ban, and she is serving that ban because of the presence of anabolic androgenic steroids in her system. And finally, on the list of 22 is Judith Jepngetich, serving the ban because of the presence of a prohibited substance, narandesterone. For Judith, it is a 4-year out of competition because of the Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya ban. But questions have been asked. Why was this list never made public? With a new sheriff in town, things at Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya might just be different and for the good of the country. But still, is ADAK in any way part of the doping cartel?
Cartel, ADAK doesn't work that way. Never, cannot even think like that. The reason why we are going public with these names, of course, is for the basic reason that we are now under a new leadership, and this is the thinking of the new leadership, and that very few people actually know exactly what we do as an agency, where we are as an agency, and because we have seen, the discussion that is in the public domain now is about the fact that there's something really wrong about doping cases in this country. Then we have to come out and set the record straight.
ADAK has also availed a list of 2022 active cases and athletes under provisional suspension for non-specified substances. The list includes Teddy Otengo Osok, provisional suspension from 1st March of 2022 for the presence of prohibited substance, plodenone, and its metabolics. Kelly Evelyn Siombua, also on that list, with serving a provisional suspension from 29th May of 2022 for presence of narandesterone. Also on the list of active cases is Phineas Kipleting, provisional suspension issued on 31st March 2022 for presence of narandesterone in the system. Vincent Kiplagat Kosgei, also in an active case, with a suspension dating from 25th July 2022 for presence of pregnacenidol, androsterone, androstane, and other drugs. Perista Bosire Morangi, also having a provisional suspension dating from 7th July of 2022 for presence of a number of prohibited substances. Stella Barsosio Jepngetich also got a provisional suspension from 1st March 2022 for presence of prohibited trimetazidine. And Eric Kumari Taki, who has already been sanctioned by the Athletics Integrity Unit, is also on the Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya radar and was provisionally suspended from 29th July 2022 for use of APO. Gloria Kite Chebiwot is also provisionally suspended from 2nd September 2022 for presence of a number of banned substances in her system.
We need to start publishing the names so that then they find it difficult to participate because their name is out and all over. Everybody knows that Moses Wakisi has been provisionally suspended for this and cannot participate. In 2016, Kenya was placed in Category A of the World Anti-Doping Agency Compliance Watch List. In December the same year, WADA's Intelligence and Investigation Department, together with the Internal Association of Athletics Federation's Athletes Integrity Unit, launched a project to examine the doping practices of Kenyan athletes. Albeit to answer the question whether Kenyan athletes dope.
So wenye wanafanya investigation, mimi si investigator, lakini hiyo ni kitu report na napea Kenya msema ya kwamba doping ni kitu inaendelea.
Some of the people you are looking at as stakeholders are the ones perpetuating the vice. So I wouldn't count on them. I mean, it's common knowledge. In Kenya, our coaches are involved in these things. Their physiotherapists are involved. Their doctors are involved. These are the people who would have been on the forefront of saying, stop this thing.
A number of Kenyan athletes who have been sanctioned or banned are, however, still expressing their innocence, while others maintain that they feel they were fixed. In the case of World Athletics versus Kenneth Kiprop Kip Kimoy, it turned out to be a case of he said, she said. On one hand, the athlete maintains that he declared the use of a medicinal drug to the doping control officer. And in his own words, this is what Kenneth says.
Mimi nilifeel nilisatiwa kwa hii angefaa akalishwe chini hata naye ajieleze, kwa sababu leo mimi najitetea leo, mwingine atakuja kujitetea kesho, na ni the same guy. I'm very sure hata tukifuatilia historia yake, I could not less than 10 athletes wamefail kwa sababu ya ujamaa. Na siwezi tetea wanariadha kwa maneno ya doping sana. Huenda kuna wenye wanadope intentionally na kuna wenye wanapatikana tu kimakosa tu. Nilifinyiliwa chini kabisa. Mpaka IU wenyewe walinikanyagia chini. Kitu ya kwanza walinipatia 16 months. Ni sign bila kujitetea. Nikawaambia hapana. Munipatia nafasi nijitetee. Mimi ningefeel kabisa kila doping control officer atembee na mtu wake. Ya pili, athlete kama ana assistant, at least kuna mwenzake mwenye aku witness. Vile wanafanyanga kwa whereabout. Unajua whereabout, wakifika sahi kwangu mimi si yuko na hakuna mtu kwa hii nyumba, wataendea kwa jirani, watapika hii compound yote, watapika picha wa confirm tulienda. Mbona hiyo witness ya kuonyesha nilifika isifanywe kwa practical? Kila mtu akuja na mtu wake. Kama mimi sina coach, mwenzangu ama bibi yangu, kwa sababu hata ningejua siku hiyo kumbe ningemuita yeye, lakini kila mtu alikuwa amelala. So mimi ninaomba hao kuliko hii site ya kila siku ya kupambana, sababu list itaendelea. Leo ni mimi, kesho ni mwingine. Whereabout, leo ni mwingine, kesho ni mwingine. Ndio tuepuke hii shida. Wacha kila kitu ikuwe transparent. Hata ingewezekana sample yenye wamefeel, hata ingewezekana tupike picha. Sababu wangekuwa wanasema kama hakuna CCTV kwa nyumba, pikeni picha. Step by step unapika. Step by step unapika na una file. In case of anything, naonyeshana.
And if Kenneth is speaking the truth, then was this right and in accordance with the WADA international standards for testing and investigations, which World Athletics has adopted in Appendix 5 to the World Athletics Anti-Doping Rules? For ADAC, a chaperone must be present when the officer goes to collect samples.
One of the things that is mandatory is that a doping control officer cannot be one-on-one with an athlete. They have to have a chaperone or a witness, especially for minors, a witness to ensure that there is corroboration of this one did this and this one. It's not he said, she said stories. No, they have to be more than one.
What if it happens that way? Because if this is a case that is an action case.
If it happens that way, then that is a departure from the standard. And if you know as an anti-doping organization that happened, then the case should not be taken forward because it was a departure. Yeah, and then now it becomes a he said, she said. If it is taken forward, then the athlete can argue their case at the whichever tribunal it is falling under, and the tribunal has to take that into consideration.
Was this a case of a technical error that occurred when handling Kenneth Kiprop's case? Or would it have been different if the doping control officer was not alone during the said sample collections?
So we cannot defend an athlete who have tested positive. We are not allowed to do that. The athletes on their own, and then now they have their own lawyers, and they work with ADA and any other, but not with us. So there's no way we can go and defend our athlete, even though they are our own athlete. But we offer Kenneth advice because we saw the case the way it was, complete the case the way it was. And the suggestion from which was done also was here. The suggestion from all athletes was based on the evidence that was there. They gave a proposal to him, but he went completely outside what was proposed to him. And eventually, he ended up even suffering more than he should have suffered.
The reality is, Article 2 of the anti-doping rules specify the circumstances and conduct that constitutes for an anti-doping rule violation. This includes Article 2 sub-paragraph 1, which provides that it is in each athlete's duty to ensure that no prohibited substance enters his or her body. Athletes are responsible for any prohibited substance or its metabolites or makers found to be present in their samples. Accordingly, it is not necessary that intent, fault, negligence, or knowing use of the athlete's part to be demonstrated in order to establish an anti-doping rule violation under Article 2.1. And as painful as that may sound, in the eyes of this specific athlete, only if he's saying the truth, Kenneth Kiprop Kimoy served his 2-year doping ban. But this was also a unique case, one which Kenneth felt betrayed by his then lawyer, Professor Dr. Moni Wekesa, who was initially his lawyer.
Inawezekanaje wewe uambie IU Kenneth amekubali na hatujaongea na wewe tangu tarehe 7 tukiwachana na yeye, aliniambia IU amethreaten watakupana mwaka 2. Nikamwambia sheria inasema nini? Sheria inasema unapewa a fair hearing. Kama hakuna fair hearing, si waseme.
I was communicating on his behalf with the AIU. And then as we did that, there were those questions that came. And I hope it's the same one. This one I've been kept looking for, calling at night, telling now, here is the situation. What do we do? I just said, here are the options. I did not tell him that accept or I did not admit. I cannot admit on his behalf. He has to sign those things. I cannot sign on his behalf. Now, you see, at the time I was representing him, and at the time I was now doing that with the AIU, there were timelines. I hope I'm remembering the right person. There were timelines. So like AIU says now, if your client is willing to accept this within this time, let us know. Then the punishment will be less. If he doesn't, we shall proceed. I looked for that young man. Even calling his friends, I couldn't access him easily. Time was running. Well, with respect to changing lawyers, this is something that happens everywhere. In all spheres, in different matters and so on. If you are unhappy with your lawyer, you are free to change. The only thing is, with respect to doping, number one, let our athletes be informed of the process.
Then how available or do Kenyan athletes get proper legal representation when they have been sanctioned by ADAC or AIU?
We have a system where the Sports Dispute Tribunal has a pool of advocates who have volunteered their services to the athletes. And they undertake these cases on a pro bono basis. Does it then mean that maybe the advocates are not giving their best when it comes to the cases that they are taking on a pro bono basis? Absolutely not. And I think advocates have, it's a calling. And the kind of legal representation that I've seen at the tribunal is top-notch.
In the case of Kenyan runner Philip Kangogo, the athlete was handed a 2-year suspension by the Athletics Integrity Unit after failing a doping test. The now 37-year-old tested positive for presence of a prohibited substance named higenamine, a dietary supplement to promote weight loss, but it is alleged to be potential masking agent for other drugs. He was tested during the PZU Cracovia Marathon that takes place in Krakow, Poland on April 28th of 2019. In a race where he finished third in a time of 2 hours, 13 minutes and 14 seconds. But then, why did Philip accept the sanctions? Or did he dope? Was he coerced? And then what should be the stand, even as this athlete claims that he only used herbs and is adamant that he will not stop using the said herbs?
Mpaka saa hizi tukiketi na wewe hivi, mimi saa hizi echana mine kama si kukul, unaona, kama si kukul, mimi echana mine saa hizi singejua ni nini, unaona, siwezi jua unless iwe ni kitu kama virus. Kwa sababu mimi siwezi jua, na mimi kabisa chenye mimi naomba, watu wengi wanaumia, watu wengi sana wanaumia innocently, na kuna watu wanatop. So akaniambia unaweza kucollect those apps alafu upeleka kwa AK Athletic Kenya. So kuna mwenye anaitwa Charlotte Krakow, anaitwa Charlotte, akaniambia huyo sasa ndiye alikuwa na handle kesi yangu.
Kangogo provided the Athletics Integrity Unit with details regarding the herbs that he had consumed. He went to the extent of providing the samples of the herbs to the Athletics Kenya, who he thought would aid him in his quest of finding out whether the said herbs contained the higenamine.
I remember kulikuwa kuna mkutano hapa Eldoret, tukamit na watu wa AK, nikapeana hiyo madawa yote yenye nilitumia sasa.
And who then should Kenyan athletes run to when faced with this kind of a hurdle?
Na mimi nilikuwa nataka nijue nini iko kwa hii dawa. Na wenyewe after hiyo akasema palaga hiyo dawa kwa AK. Alafu AK watume. Na hiyo dawa ilienda ikakaa Nairobi sasa.
Nani alireceive hiyo dawa kwa AK?
Anaitwa Charlotte Krakow, Charlotte. Ali receive mpaka dawa nikaambia nimepeana email, nikaambia nimepeana dawa. So dawa ilienda my last email ndio nipewe hiyo nini. Wakaniambia sasa AK wamefail. That is why nakwambia AK are failures. Walitumia AK wamefail. No.
It is not the duty of Athletics Kenya to do the testing. Charlotte was asked by AIU to collect those samples, and we will find out whether those samples was forwarded to AIU, and then what happened of those samples, whether those samples did not contain anything, therefore he was found to have used those elements. So that was something which is subject to investigation to find out what did AIU do with those samples, and I'm sure that they will be free to come out with an answer on that one. That one, I will ask Charlotte to follow it up and to ensure that he gets correct information of what actually transpired.
Do Kenyan athletes have a genuine reason to feel that Athletics Kenya, being the top organ of athletics in the country, needs to do more.
So watu wanasema tu wewe mwenyewe ukuwe responsible na vitu yenye naingia mwili yako. My friend, sasa how can you vitu yenye unakula inaenda kwa tumbo yako? How comes something like a blood yenye wewe uchukua? Kwani sisi athletes wako na hiyo litmus paper yenye wanaingiza kwanza hivi alafu risala zinatoka hii kitu ina contain. We don't have such a things.
Many athletes, those who do not go to school and they are running very well, they cannot access even internet to check on what has listed of substances that has been prohibited.
Maisha ni ngumu. Sasa chunga kabisa. Maisha ni ngumu.
Maisha ni ngumu.
Nilikuja kupiga hesabu namna hii. Ona mbele wanyano. Usione hapo.
Ronald Kipchumba was banned after testing positive for blood-boosting EPO. In his case, he accepted the use of the prohibited substance.
Sasa kuna my friend moja alikuanga iteni. Akasema Ronald, sasa kuna something maybe ina boost. Lakini sasa nikamuuliza alafu kwa dobe inaonekana alikataa kabisa, haiwezi onekana. Alafu tena the mother was majabu moja hata ilikuwanga Thursday na kwenda siku wapi ng'ambo. Maybe ningejua, maybe ningekamatwa, ningekuwa hata namba ngapi 4. Sasa tu nilikuwa na tukwazi ile kama achale tu nikapale tu maybe sales kila kitu.
Ilikuwa mara ya kwanza.
Kwa mara ya kwanza. Mara ya kwanza nimepimwa. Mara ya kwanza tu alafu na same niliambiwa na wajamaa wengine, ukitaka hiyo mambo ya dobe suppose sasa uende kitu kama maybe ujidunge hiyo mambo ya nini kwanza hiyo, alafu before maybe 3 weeks ama hata maybe 1 month. Lakini sasa kwangu sasa tu nili Thursday alafu sasa mambo ya chini yake maybe nakwenda ndio sasa tu ya jamaa alinua nikasema tu anyway tena regret sana na regret kabisa na regret.
And he clearly knows the medical practitioner who aided him to cheat before he was caught.
Alikuanga iten hapo kwanza, after iten akaenda after Eldoret akaenda Kitale. Nilijaribu hata maybe kufight namna hii na watu waeka hii, lakini tu baadaye alafu sasa tunikaona alafu hakuna haja. Because sasa unajua sasa alafu kama hakuna mambo ya nini usaidizi sasa hivi kama kasi.
A rogue medic who might still be practicing his craft and just maybe still acting as a doping catalyst and part of a cartel that flourishes because of this mess.
Because we want to work, every little information counts now. So we need those information. We need them to come out. We will support them. Nobody is going to disparage any athlete that comes out. We will support.
Ukienda AK utakanyagiwa. Na athletes wengi wanaogopa sana. Wanaogopa sana kwa sababu ukisema tu mwe unakanyagiwa.
And so yes, we know there are cartels. And yes, we are trying to see how we can penetrate those cartels to see if we can break them or get to take these people to court so that we can sanction them. But it's really intricate. It's really intricate because there's a lot of money involved in especially in athletics. If there is a drug that needs a prescription, how come we are having it dispensed over the counter for athletes? So we need to look at other legislation.
And that means when we talk of the athlete being innocent, to a large extent, yes, because somebody knowledgeable who is not innocent, but innocent in the picture that they are not, we don't know who they are, assist in facilitating these particular substances to reach the athletes.
But what about the increase of the whereabout cases? In July of 2020, former world marathon record holder and 2012 London Olympic Games bronze medalist Wilson Kipsang received a 4-year ban for missing a doping test. He had initially received a 2-year ban, which was increased after he allegedly provided false evidence to justify his whereabout failure. Athletics Integrity Unit also slapped pace setter Alex Corio, who was part of the pace setters when Eliud Kipchoge successfully assaulted the 1 hour 59.40 mark, with a 2-year ban for 3 consecutive whereabout failures. Former world of 1500 meters champion Elijah Manangoi also received a 2-year ban on July 23rd of 2020 for Mr. Doping Test.
There are athletes, the senior athletes, which I really don't understand why someone who has competed everywhere, knows the rules, has been subject to the same rules and chooses to not to be found there. And eventually you find some of them now, when these youths go to test them, they run away. What is the reason of you running away from being tested? So there is something you are trying to hide.
We always tell the athlete, it is not the agent who is in Adams. It is not the agent who is the athlete in the registered testing pool. It is you as the athlete. So you should be able to find your own whereabouts. You have a phone, and we have something called the Athlete Central. It allows them to find their whereabouts from their phone. If you are unable to do that, and you decide to delegate it to your agent or parent or sister or brother, whoever you decide to delegate it to, just make sure that you always remind them.
For a number of athletes in Kenya, the drive to win is fierce. Besides the satisfaction of personal accomplishment, athletes often pursue dreams of winning medals for personal reasons and also for the country, or at some point to secure a spot in the national team. And this to others acts as the fuel and makes some athletes continue to make use of these performance-enhancing drugs. We should not forget that using the performance-enhancing drugs or doping has a number of its own risks.
Look at what we take pride of, the source of champions, the home of champions, the city of champions. Most of those champions cannot bear children, whether male or female. Look at some who have been there for a long time. The ladies are growing beards, the breasts have shrunk, the ovaries are diminished. They cannot be mothers for practical purposes. The men may have been very muscular, but they cannot fertilize anybody's daughter. Now, who wants a community like that?
Women is even more worse because they can be changing from women to men. They can begin growing beards and growing muscles and becoming abnormal. The ultimate price is death, hypertension, strokes, and all those related medical issues.
According to WADA's project on doping in Kenya, the doping practices of Kenyan athletes are unsophisticated, opportunistic, and uncoordinated. Based on the substances detected, Kenyan athletes most commonly use nandrolone and EPO. The role of local medical practitioners and quasi-medical personnel, e.g. the chemist, is highly relevant to the accessibility of prohibited substances to athletes and their entourage. Medical practitioners and quasi-medical personnel are unaware and or willful blind to their role in facilitating the access of athletes and their entourage to prohibited substances. But then, on a random visit to a number of training facilities in the North Rift, one will easily note that foreigners, ranging from athletes, coaches to agents, are present in the country. But can we ascertain that Athletics Kenya knows every foreigner, some even on a tourist visa, and yet they handle Kenyan athletes?
When you try now to follow that, because AK so many times has tried even to follow these guys, then the people have the visa, you talk to the police, they do their own things, nothing happens. You go to immigration, our president has gone to immigration in Eldoret many times to find out why are these people in this country coaches? Who are these? Do we know them? At one time, the federation requested the managers to provide the names of those who are supporting athletes in Kenya, and we wanted to know so that we can give them the permission to go and look there. Yes, they did for 1 year, and then you find them, they're going there. So we even attended a meeting in Arambe House with the security apparatus to explain to them there's a problem in it. It did not start yesterday. We started a long time ago. We went there. I was there myself. And we asked them, can you help us so that we weed out these people? Because AK does not have the powers to go and kick out anybody who has got a visa. They'll tell you, I have a visa. What do you do with them?
I don't know if I can go to Ethiopia. I'll go to Ethiopia like the way I can say and do what I can do. Ethiopians, most of the time, they're coming here. But I need to Athletic Kenya to say, okay, we need to put everything in the right procedures to say, okay, if you want to come to Kenya, to train in Kenya, if you are coming as an athlete, you have to pass through the Athletic Kenya. In Athletic Kenya, we have office in Eldoret. We have office in 10. We have office in Kapsabet. You have to pass all requirements to be in Eldoret. Because most of the time are just jokers. You find somebody are joking, he's an athlete, another athlete. He just after, they meeting all the time, meeting ladies, meeting whatever, meeting men. Come, I'm seeing you, come, well, let's go to a hotel, I want to go buy lunch for you. He take ladies, he take men, and then from there, he just going polo to attract. After you win athlete, you find sometimes he stop.
There's an athlete I remember we were testing, and they told us they have diplomatic immunity because it was not a Kenyan athlete, it was an athlete from a foreign athlete, but we had intelligence that this athlete is doping and helping some of our Kenyan athletes to dope, and we read in on that person. And you see, they are telling us that they have a diplomatic passport and diplomatic immunity. And what do? But you see, we have to stick to our guns and say, yes, you may, but as long as you are under Kenyan jurisdiction, we have the right to test you, and we have to step. So we went ahead and did all. And there are those that we found positive, and we handed over the case to their countries, and the cases are still going on. But you see, it helps to have data and to know who is in the country and for what purpose they're in the country.
It is, however, a big ask for Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya to fight this war as an island. Athletics Kenya has a big responsibility that they should and must play.
And you have to understand another thing also, that when a country is banned, it means all other federations cannot participate during the Olympic Games, cannot participate during maybe Commonwealth Games. So you see, now the effects of athletes being banned will now reverberate to football, to rugby, to other federations that they will not go to 2024 Paris Olympics. They will also be affected. And it's not only athletics, that is what people don't understand. So we have to tell each other that this mess, we have to stop it, and it has to stop right now.
For Athletics Kenya, elections looks like a forgotten past. Maybe a recipe that has made the federation to lack the ultimate goodwill from its athletes. They simply assumed office shortly before Uhuru Kenyatta became the president, and with Ruto administration, they still hang on.
Iten saizi wanasema iko kambi gani iko Iten? Hakuna kambi. Mtu anaishi kwake, anarem, anang'ang'ana, anakula barabara usiku na mchana. There is no kambi in Iten. None. Hakuna hata mwenye hata security, hakuna mwenye anatupea security nini hapana. Ni sisi na Mungu yetu. Na kutoa results pass, wanafurahia tu. Nothing. Nothing. Hata adak sijui nini. Wenyewe kama hiyo dawa si wangekuwa wametoa kuanga funded. Kwani nani anafund mimi hata ndio nikimbie?
But if they are only waiting me to raise and make money and clap for me after winning a call, that is not enough. We can't call it that we have done everything for for this country. All people who have retired in the civil servants, they are now in AK. Majority of them. Their services were no longer required there. So what are they doing here? The president should have retired long time ago. He's approaching 80s. There are people who are 30s, 40s, 50s who can still perform that duty. But because again the constitution does not allow, they will still be there till death. Okay? Somebody like Vice Chairman, Mr. Mutui, he retired from teaching profession long time ago. So what is going to do? Is there any idea that he's going to put into athletics. The guy should be resting. I know it's painful when they hear this, but I'm not saying that I need to go there. I've got other things to do. But these are the things that do come and face us at the end of the day, because we are not acting at the right time.
Those guys, they don't want to get out of the office, because once election is done fairly, okay, those guys, they know they will not be in office. So they are protecting themselves so that they can still stay. Because if the rule says election should be done after every 5 years, and that's not been done for so long, almost 10 years now. So we are breaking the rules, and we know what needs to be done every 5 years. An election of officials, the constitution says it should be done by members. Then I ask them, who are members of AK? Who are members? If election is done by members, who are members? Who are these members of AK? So something is not going well, because once election is done by members, if you are managing athletes and an athlete is not a member and he is employing you, you are there, the employer is the athlete, and is not allowed to vote. So something is not going well.
Do we need a change of guard at the helm of Athletics Kenya?
The problem we are facing is that people want to go. We were halfway doing the elections and they stopped it. They stopped that. The case has been running for the longest. We don't know why a case can continue for that long. I mean, it's not a murder case or anything. It's just a simple case to say, continue with the elections or, do whatever. This thing has been going on. They postponed the other day to May next year. So who is behind this or what is going on with the court? I don't know, and we don't know. The president, our president, has even talked to the previous ministry. He has the documentation to prove, asking the CS at that time, can you assist us whichever way you can so that we can go for elections? He has approached whoever in the system. We want to get out of this. I know there is this thing that we want to stay here. No. We want to get mandate so that we can continue. If we don't get the mandate, others will get the mandate to continue. AK belongs to Kenyans. It's not for Korea, it's not for the President General. It's for the Kenyans. And you don't serve here forever. Eh? You serve for your time and you go.
You cannot do stay with election. 10 years. You cannot tell me the case in the court. What is going in the court? And we are suffering. And at the same time, the office is running. Or we close the office, we suspend all the office so that we can put another body, so that all in the office to come outside so that we can do the election. That's the only way. That's the only way I want.
Athletics Kenya might have achieved a number of positives, but the country needs to be reminded that the last election the said federation held was in April the year 2013. Yes, 2013. Then where should the buck stop? The so-called cartels flourish at the expense of athletes. How comes, in a number of instances, only the athletes gets to be sanctioned?
I want to think of this athlete as my prime resource. He is my coffee, she is my coffee. I want to tell this coffee very well because I want to make profit out of this individual. Now, when we think of sports, the sportsmen and women are laborers. They labor for somebody else. They labor within the economics of sport, the producer. So in the echelon of this, from you as the athlete, there is a coach somewhere here, there is a management here, there is a federation here, and there is now the punishing body, WADA or the IOC or the World Athletics, who they supply their product in terms of competition. So when you go to a competition, you are going as a factor of producing a performance. So this structure here, or these stakeholders here, have an interest in your performance. So if you can boost or you can bring the best performance, then there's a reward. That reward is called earnings. And now, when we think of the earnings, the first line of the earnings is the manager gets the money from the race organizers or the competition organizers on behalf of the athlete. So what happens? Look at this. The manager has a percentage.
If you are a doctor out there and you're part of a syndicate that is providing substances to our athletes, I am on you right from this press conference. If you're an agent, foreign or local, and you're part of this syndicate that is getting us on the brink of being considered for banning, be warned that from this moment, your days are so numbered.
Kenya has no doubt ruled the global stage. And that is from the days of Wilson Kiprugut Chumo to Eliud Kipchoge and Faith Chepngetich. The country has dominated. Then should we sit back and watch as our decade-old cash crop gets thrown to the dogs?
Bana tunapaka tu hii uchafu hii Kenya hivi. Sasa zingine hata unakaa mpaka unakuwa shembe. Kwa sababu hii kitu wenye wana wezi na wenye si wezi na wenye si, yani wote wamechanganyika. Kuna nani sasa atatusaidia? Nani? Kuna mtu?
Moses Wahisi, KTN News.